Nice one, nice one. Are you ready like Freddie?
Yes.
Yes. You're ready like Freddie. Nice one. So, Cordelia, thank you. This is version two, or re-recording of the first episode that we done a week ago or about, isn't it, or 2 weeks ago. I want to thank you for your patience and rescheduling this re-recording. IT let us down, so hence why we're here again. We're going to have another version of the conversation, but I know it's going to be rich, and I know you will be definitely sharing some nuggets about your life twists and turns, your journey, and as well as what you are doing now. So I want to welcome you to the long story short couch. This is my couch, yeah, in my living room type of thing. And I want to welcome you. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm grateful and always winning.
I like that about always winning. That's important, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially, just because it's Monday doesn't mean we have to have Monday blues type of thing. Do you know what I mean? We could be winning throughout, regardless, winning throughout, regardless. So we're going to get right into it. And the first question that I ask is always, I'm trying to sort of like lay a foundation about who the person is whom I'm interviewing. So the first question is, da 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 da, who is Cordelia?
Mm, I'm the I can do it kid.
You what? Say that again?
I'm the I can do it kid. Yeah. Like as far back as I can remember when I was little, because I was very little, like a petite child, they would ask me, okay, can you do this? And I'd say, yep, I can do it. And sometimes before they'd even ask, I'd say, I can do it, you know? And so I do see that repeating in my life even now, And it's not even like a cocky thing because I'm pretty sure that, there's usually a little bit of everything that I've done, but I can always fill in the rest.
Hmm. Where does that come from? The yep, I can do it, kid.
Just, I would say because of my size, people assuming that I wasn't physically capable, but I knew I was mentally capable.
So has that got anything to do with like your home environment? Because I remember myself growing up, my mum and my dad instilled such confidence in me through the images that I saw in the house and how they spoke to me. Did your home environment have any influence, opposed from your physical, stature, have any influence upon that?
I would definitely say that. My dad was always like, you're an Atwell, and we are this way, and we are that way, and we do these things. So I was like, People don't know I'm an Atwell?"
You're
Yeah.
at well, you're at well. So everything is that you can, I can. And that's such a strong affirmation, isn't it? A strong positive affirmation, I can do it. I just love that. You know what? I'm all talking, and I forgot to big up. I forgot to big up Dr. Ava Eagle Brown. Do you know what I mean? For us connecting with each other. Like, oh my gosh. And now we're on
Yeah,
this podcast. Can you imagine? And I'm going to be on yours too. That's lovely,
I
isn't it?
know. Yeah. So see, that's the I'm grateful part because if it
Mm,
weren't for her, we wouldn't be here
true.
speaking today. Yeah.
That's true. Having that attitude or having the attitude of gratitude has definitely helped me in, achieving my goals. Do you know what I mean? 100%. So as we think about attitude of gratitude and the I can do it kid type of thing, I want us to go back to the beginning, to the beginning, to the beginning. And, a lot of the people that I know, obviously, because I'm from London, Great Britain, United Kingdom, do you know what I mean? And obviously, you're going to say, yeah, I can hear an accent, but we know it's an American accent. But which part of America are you from?
Well, originally I'm from Chicago, but I've mostly like I've lived in Atlanta, and I've lived in the Northeast in Vermont, but now I live in Washington, D.C.
When me and you first had a conversation, I was like, whoa, that's the first time I was really silent because normally I'm a chatterbox, you know what I mean? Always interrupting and talking over people. But I was like, whoa, your journey, your life journey, you know, we can talk about Islam, marriage, and that intimacy coach. Those three factors is really why we're here. Do you know what I mean? Because I really feel that your story would resonate with so many and also be encouraging and inspiring and empowering to others. So let's now deep dive into that journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, firstly, what you do is an intimacy coach. What is that?
Yeah. So I invite women back to their bodies, you know, connecting with them and really just choosing pleasure, right? And choosing joy. And these two things are not things that good girls are supposed to choose. That, good practicing Christian and Muslim women are we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to be self-sacrificing and, submitting to our husbands and those kind of things. But here's the fun fact about Islam, that the version of Islam that we're familiar with is the colonized version because Islam is freaky, you know? It really is. It's like a deep spiritual practice for all humans to just live their best lives and choose pleasure and joy. There's an understanding physiologically that humans are built for bliss. And we get to remember that 5 times a day when we touch our foreheads on the ground. And that's actually considered the bliss center. So we're recharging our electrical wiring for that. And when I got a divorce, uh, gosh, I guess 4 years ago now, congratulations, me. I decided to explore my sexuality, right? So I started my business in 2015, and it was about helping women to create sustainable practices of self-nurturing. And in 2015, self-nurturing, self-care, all those words that are so cool and awesome now were like taboo. And so I had to modify my message to be a wellness coach, right? And then an emotional wellness coach. But underlying was about self-nurturing. So self-nurturing took a turn for me when I divorced because I was like, you know what? What have I not had a chance to nurture? And that's my sexuality. And so I found the book called Taste of Honey. And turns out it was translated from the original Encyclopedia of Sexology and Erotology, as in eroticism in Islam, that was written in the 11th century. Yeah. So I was like, okay, let me find out that, we're all about pleasure and joy for real. And but when I went to go and learn more about that and like see where are there institutes for this, ended up in Tantra school because we don't do that anymore as Muslims. And Tantra school, as you can imagine, like philosophically, some things were out of alignment, like they believe in taras, and taras are like little goddesses, and like that's shirk. But anyway, and then I ended up in somatic sexology school where I'm still studying now and kind of expanding things in between the two, or simultaneously when I started Tantra school, I also was studying somatic movement, which is really the soma is the actual physical body, including the limbic system and your nervous system, your emotional body system, and how to realign it. The form of movement that I learned was through the chakras, but there's like 108 chakra systems, and I don't like to confuse. So the point is just that somatic awareness and understanding how the technology of our bodies can really help us to be more connected, blissful, and joyful. Um, was like I just had to dive deeper. So this has been, I would say, like a 4-year journey. And in 2022, I was like, I can't keep this a secret, Like I gotta tell other people. And I start, I was working with some executives, and so I started integrating it into my coaching, and then I just came out, you know, and decided like, okay, let's play with intimacy. And so yeah.
Wow, there's a lot there. There is so much there and so very interesting. So you're the teacher, I'm the student. All these new words, I'm thinking, oh, I need to look that up later and see what that means. But if we go back just a little bit, then we're going to go forward again. You embraced Islam during a real pivotal time in your life. How did Islam influence your journey as a woman?
Yeah. So I chose Islam on the heels of both my parents dying in consecutive years. And, at first it was just to deal with the grief. I was in college. A lot of my classmates were from West Africa, and I would, hang out with them and their families. And just the way they dealt with grief was like something I'd never seen before. It's like love with no place to go. And I wanted to know more about being that way of being. And when I did some research about Islam, it turns out like everyone is like concerned about women n not or wearing too many clothes, right? You got Muslim women that even cover their faces. Well, in the fourth century, when Islam came to Saudi Arabia, women weren't allowed to wear any clothes. They were chattel, like slaves, and just they couldn't inherit anything. So Islam came and gave women the rights to inherit property, to wear clothes, to have dignity, to get an education. And because of that, the first university ever was founded by a Muslim woman in the ninth century in Morocco. And she was an heiress, right? She had the money and the education to find an institution. So uh, I ended up choosing that as a way of being. And after I married my husband, who's not West African, um, and we had our first child, who was a girl, I chose that this is the way that I want to raise my family.
Mm. Ooh, I tell ya, it's like every time I talk, it's like, whoa, whoa. And there's another bit that obviously we had our initial conversation, but there is more that you are revealing to me. Do you know what I mean? So, in terms of Islam and being an intimacy coach, it's often seen as quite taboo. Do you know what I mean? So, how did that, or what am I saying now? How did it influence, or did it influence your journey into becoming an intimacy coach?
Yeah, I want people to come back to like the way we're supposed to be. So definitely, like I said, the first place I went is like, what is my religion? And I use that word very loosely. I really firmly believe that Islam is a spiritual practice. It's a deep spiritual practice, and now I can say that for real. That I've studied like Tantra, which is also a spiritual practice, and learned a couple of other things, Taoism and stuff like that. I think even in the beginning of the book, A Taste of Honey, it mentions that because of colonialism, Islam it appears more patriarchal than it really is. So, and very much, like our marriage is considered half of our deen or half of our religion. And what is it that keeps the marriage together? Sex. Like it's really encouraged to touch each other 4 days a week, you know? So I was like, oh, okay. And but Muslims don't know that anymore. So there are, I mean, but there are some intimacy coaches who are Muslim, right? Hijab wearing, sometimes niqab wearing. So it's really not a secret. I just don't cover So it's more like, is she supposed to be talking about those things?
Do you get that? Do you get people saying, "Oh, you say that you are Muslim, but you're not wearing a hijab or you're not covering your head." Is that something that you get from fellow Muslim ladies or men? Well,
I don't hang out with them
no,
anymore, so I don't know.
you don't what? Say that again.
I said I don't hang out with them anymore. The
Oh,
ones that say that is,
mm.
the but yes, I did get that in the beginning. I actually, when I chose Islam 2 months before September 11th, I immediately wore hijab and abaya and everything. But also, right, on the heels of my divorce, like I think it was June of 22. I stopped wearing it right in the middle of my Free to Be podcast, right? I took a commercial break because I was live streaming it back then. And so I started the the episode with the hijab on, and then I went to a commercial break, came back, and I was like, you don't have to adjust your screens. You're actually seeing my hair, you know? Um, and so that's how I chose to take it off.
So you chose to take it off due to you just being authentic and you living another version of yourself. Is that why?
I would say I just wanted to experiment with not wearing it.
Mm, mm,
And so now I wear it sometimes and sometimes I don't, but mostly I don't. Yeah.
mm. I remember when we was last having a conversation, you said that something really quite profound. You said there were parts of yourself that you didn't nurture sexually. So was that within your marriage as to why you are now learning about soma, learning about all of these wonderful things that take up your role as an intimacy coach?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You know, when we're married, you, to some extent, you do have to, um, you know, kind of mesh with that person and, work towards meeting their needs. And you forget what are your needs and do I have needs, you know?
And how has reclaiming that part of yourself helped you on your mission, you know what I mean, to help other women?
Yeah. It's really it's really been pivotal, because the more I know about what my requirements are, I'm creating standards, whereas like in my marriage, it's like my standard was moving. It was like a moving target. And so now it's like, oh, I can create my standards. And I have learned how, like the process of doing that. And I get to share that with other women that don't know that that's a possibility.
Mm. That's very empowering, do you know what I mean? Because I always find that, our purpose is led through our own experiences, do you know what I mean? And it's so important for us to give back to our community in the way that is authentic to us. Do you get what I mean? So sometimes people would look at a trial or, twists and turns of life and think, oh, woe is me. But you've looked at it and you've reflected and you said, I can now use these skills, use my experience to help other women and empower them.
Yeah. Yeah. I get to do that, and I I was trying to do it during my marriage. I was, those memories come up on Facebook and whatever. And I saw, I think as far back as 2017 on my podcast, I was having conversations about intimacy. I forgot that. I thought it was 2018 because I also had an episode called uh Your Sexual Healing or Healing Your Sexuality or something like that. So I've been talking about it, and I have been kind of looking into it, but I didn't have the time, the space, or the actual energy to really dive into it more deeply, uh, to a point where I thought that I could share with other people. I was kind of tiptoeing into it back then,
Mm.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a question, like in terms of the work that you do and intimacy, what tends to be something that women struggle with?
Mm. I mean, besides speaking up for what they actually want, that's a big problem in itself, you know. That's the main problem, that I see. Um, and worrying that their partner will leave them, you know, if they state their requirements, because they're perceived as demands. And, it's sex is supposed to be for men's pleasure. And that's not true. Sex is supposed to be mutual pleasure, you know, for all humans involved. So,
It's
yeah.
quite interesting that even now, in this decade, do you know what I mean, that we're living in, that, women still have those thoughts and those perceptions about intimacy. Do you get what I mean? I find it really interesting when, we've got women's liberation, we've been empowered, do you know what I mean? Equality and all of that. But yeah, as a woman, we still have those thoughts, do you know what I mean? About, oh, if I state this, then they will think that I'm demanding. If I say I want it like this, it will say that I may be being too aggressive or I should just hold back a bit. Don't you find that quite interesting?
Yeah, or even that, if I state that, I'm into choking, which is actually quite normal. A lot of people are into it, but that I'll be perceived as someone who's naughty or whatever, right? And it's like, is naughty being, is that a thing? Right? So, yeah.
I really love the work that you're doing because, we know there's a high divorce rate. Do you know what I mean? It's like
Yes.
50% it will work, 50% it will end up in divorce. And your work is, I see, as enabling marriages to be healthy and to thrive. Do you get what I mean? So is the work that you do just based with married couples,
Actually, I don't work with couples at all. I would love to, but right now I'm just working with women. Yeah, but
married
it
women?
makes not no, not necessarily. Some of them are divorced, some of them single. Very few actually are married because remember, married women, they think everything's good, right? Even if things are not good. It's like um it can be you can be slow to admit it. And I'm gonna say I'm the first one. When I was married, that's why I have all these books. I started reading because I didn't want to talk to anybody about it, like it was like even for me, you know, a little bit of a secret, but it's sprinkled in a lot of Islamic texts, where it's like there's a book called Closer Than a Garment. And in there it talks about the importance of sex and touching regularly, but I don't know how many people are reading those books or if they're looking at those as ways to improve their marriages, right? Yeah, because
Mm.
we always are looking. I know in the beginning I was like, well, what can I do to be more grateful, right? And the things I found out about gratitude, I was like, oh, so like gratitude is a cure for depression. Gratitude is a cure for anxiety. Gratitude, yeah, you know? And like the physiology of gratitude, it does still lead you back to your body and
Mm.
connecting with your body. So,
Mm, it's having that, self-awareness, isn't it? Not just about the skills and the talents that you have, but your body. Do you know what I mean? And knowing your body and embracing, do you know what I mean? What you're able to give and what you're able to receive as well. So, as the ultimate joy goddess, I love that. When I was on your website, I said the ultimate joy goddess. I've got it written down here. Do you know what I mean? What does joy mean to you?
joy is a frequency, you know? Like I was saying before, like this is our bliss center. So like the body has different frequencies in it. And you can attune yourself to the frequency of joy, and it should be natural. Um, so that's what joy is for me. And in the beginning, right, I was giving it lip service. That's how I chose the title, The Ultimate Joy Goddess, because life be life and And man, so many things were coming to me, and to the point where I said, this is for me to remember joy, you know? Things happen that you don't like, that I didn't like. And I said, it's not going to swallow me whole. Just like in my marriage, I was like, I'm going to nurture myself so that I can be present for my children and be with them, you know? So after, divorce, I was like, I'm going to tune myself to the frequency of joy because that's the purpose of all these experiences that I don't like coming to me. They're for me. Yeah.
Mm. I love that, to be able to tune yourself into the frequency of joy. A lot of us need to do that, isn't it? Dealing with what is happening in the world. Do you know what I mean? For us to see the good. And when things are happening, just think on and ponder on the positives and what we can do within our own control. The things out of our control, don't worry about it. I was a person, back in the day, where I would be overthinking a lot of things. Do you know what I mean? Thinking way, 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 way into the future. Maybe 10, 20 years. I'm like, oh, I'm not even there yet. Could be just like 20. I'm thinking about when I'm 40. Not even there. But yeah, it's so important to be in the present moment, isn't it? And to think and to ponder on what is happening now. So, as we come to the end, I just want you to share about with our watchers and listeners about what people should remember about your long story short.
Mm. I can, I do, I have. Yeah. So I can create anything that I desire. And so I do. And I have everything I desire.
Those are such powerful words. I can, I do, and I have. I want to thank you so much, Cordelia, for gracing the long story short couch version number 2. And I know that your journey, your life journey, do you know what I mean, will definitely inspire as well as empower women to know that they can, they do, and they have it all.